Oregon versus California. If you are considering where you want to move, today we are going to share the pros and the cons based off of some facts and statistics that we're going to share with you guys.
I just want to say, I'm not going to steer anybody letting you think that Oregon is any better than California or California is any better than Oregon. But there are some differences. And I mean, we go to California routinely, usually the northern part of California.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, so usually the northern side. But we just got back from a Southern California, went to Disneyland, did the works, beach towns. And we were there for 12 days. And
we drove
there. Awesome road trip out of it.
Too. So we saw a lot more of the state than usually what we would see. You know, just flying there. We got to drive through like so many different towns because we drove like from one end to the other. But
I thought that was pretty cool though.
Yeah, and definitely.
I got to see the nightlife too because I met up with a buddy of mine, high school friend of mine. He lives in the LA area. And I now realize you do not want to be in the wrong neighborhood. Is what I'm saying.
A lot more so than here.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're dining. It still could be the wrong neighborhood. It's not like you're on a street where houses are. Like, we were just somewhere out to eat. And, you know, it just took a second to look around and be like, we are in the wrong spot. And so we went elsewhere, you know, so that's a little bit different to me that I'm simply not used to from our area that we're in here in Oregon. But, I mean, everywhere you go has their places.
It's true. But I mean, I have heard from clients who are relocating to our area in Salem specifically. Obviously, you go to Portland, there's going to be more areas that you want to avoid. But I've heard from clients who are relocating from parts of California, you know, probably like the Los Angeles, like Southern California area to Salem. And they have said things like, we don't care what side of town we live on. We're open to probably what you guys would consider the worst side of town, worst crime ratings, worst school ratings, lowest home prices. Those are all generally going to go together because our worst side of town is really not that bad compared to what they were seeing. So we are not going to try to convince you to move to Oregon, although we are Oregon real estate agents. We might be a little biased because we do really love living here, but we will be sharing both pros and cons of both. Yeah. And before we get into it though, if you're new here, welcome. My name's Mariah.
And I'm Spencer.
And we are a top producing husband and wife real estate team here in Oregon. And we get calls, texts, and emails from people like you who are watching our YouTube videos and are thinking about relocating to Oregon all the time. We totally love it. So if that's you, feel free to reach out. I'll put our contact information below. We would love to work with you. And if you are thinking about moving and you're not moving to Oregon for whatever reason, you're moving to California or anywhere else, contact us and we can set you up with a solid real estate agent who will do a great job for you wherever you are located. The first it's a pro for Oregon, con for California. This is cost of living. Okay. Historically, Oregon has been and is more affordable to live in than California. Obviously, this is going to really vary depending on what part of California, what town. There's little towns, all over. Same with Oregon. It's going to vary depending on where at in Oregon you're at as well. But generally, over as a whole, California will be quite a bit more expensive. And that's crazy because Oregon is one of the most expensive. Okay, maybe not one of the most, but I believe it's at least like the 10th most expensive. It's definitely up there. It's one of the more expensive states. So
California
it's not cheap.
Is probably top 5.
Definitely.
In expenses.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
for sure.
We are neighbors. And
yes.
It's not a big, I would say, difference. I mean, cost of goods, materials, they do go up. Every time we are in California, buy something from California. Housing is exponentially higher. And so that's why we get a lot of people selling off there and catching equity and moving here to Oregon. And a lot of Oregonians, they love it because they associate, if you're coming from California, I got a cash buyer, and it's one of those things where ever since I got into real estate, it was like, they're coming from California, they must be rich.
Right.
And that's
or just have a lot more to work with because, I sold a home not too long ago to a couple from... I always say the word San Luis Obispo. I can't say it. I can't say the name. It's in Southern California, but always butcher that name, but they were living there and their home was, I think it was like $800 something thousand. And so they were able to use the cash and buy something much nicer here, because that can get you so much more here than in California. It really didn't get you that far where they were located. So
it really can.
We do see that a lot. I think I saw somewhere that it is 19% more expensive to live in California than Oregon. Yeah. And some of the factors,
just by the cost of goods, material.
Yes. Some of the factors were gas is cheaper in Oregon. Oregon's gas tax is about 29% less than California. Oregon doesn't have sales tax, and Oregonians, we do pay income tax still. It's not a no income tax state, but it is less than what Californians pay. Wow. And I also saw somewhere, I just saw this today. If you made $50,000 and lived in Los Angeles, which I don't know how anyone could do that with how expensive things are. But I saw this statistic online just to give comparison. If you made $50,000 a year and lived in Los Angeles, then you could make the same. You could make $37,000 and live in Portland and live the same, if that makes sense. Yeah. Did I say that right? I hope that makes sense. It makes sense,
though, because that's that 19% rate that you're talking about.
Yes, and that's in Portland. So obviously, Portland is one of the most expensive places in Oregon that you can live in. Salem, the capital, quite a bit less expensive. Lots of surrounding towns that are less expensive. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, besides just being expensive versus Oregon, I just say their real estate has come really to the point where if you're not from California or used to those prices, it's almost unattainable for a lot of people that are coming in from lower incomes, or even a resident in California. I mean, there's so many areas where it is a problem and you can't actually own a piece of real estate. And that's like gut wrenching for me, because a lot of people, that's our retirement. That's how we can give inheritance to our family, our next generations as well. And so when you're just stuck in a rental mentality, so it's like a mindset too. So that kind of affects you mentally as you're walking through, because ownership just kind of does something to you. You can call it pride, you can call it ego, whatever, but there's something where you're like, man, I own this. It's a self-worth of accomplishment. And
it's kind of a security, because every time I make a payment, I'm building equity. I'm sheltering income. It's like a built-in piggy bank that if something happens, I can sell my house. I can take money out of my house. Like, I have options. I'm not just here. Obviously, you have other savings, but it is in a way, it's a different, a separate savings, I guess you could say.
In Oregon, I mean, we are kind of right behind than California is what I'm saying. So the unaffordability side, I'm talking to people often, and on the buyers with 7.5% interest rates, it's just unattainable at times. I mean, for some buyers that don't have money down or have an asset to sell in order to purchase, I mean, I could not imagine paying over $3,400 on a residential home that's 3-bed, 2-bath, nothing special.
Right.
And you're like, what are we doing here? And so the justification of rent versus home ownership is really something that you have harder to consider and think about as a citizen in the U.S. that's, maybe not making money and scraping by right now.
Yeah, definitely. Oregon definitely is overall, though, we're going to see much lower home prices.
Absolutely.
We don't have, there's a lot of different towns in California. You're going to look up on Zillow, what's for sale near me, and everything is over $1 million. Well, it's not like that here.
I was fed up with, excuse me, I'm adjusting real quick.
What?
I was fed up with, like, 2 years ago, when we're in the era, as I'm going to call it, from 2020 to 2022. And I look online and see what's available. And it just seemed like anything with an acre or more was like, let's sell it for $1 million.
Right.
And
it's like automatically that means
us being an Oregonian, I was so confused, because these properties were selling, and it was very, very surprising. And they were outside of the city, and I just didn't understand it. But it's similar, though, when you get to California. It's like everything and anything is $1 million, $1 million.
In a lot of towns. It's true. It's true. Even the towns that you wouldn't think are more as expensive, like Northern California, some of the kind of, I don't want to just say crappy, like just not very nice
Watch your tongue,
towns.
Mariah.
Well, you know what I mean? Like just towns that just aren't very desirable. A lot of people wouldn't want to live there. Like more rundown towns, like you're still seeing really high home prices. It's crazy. Okay, let's talk about the climate. So
I'm going to sell you on this one.
Okay. Oregon has a moderate yet diverse climate. So it's really going to change depending on the side of Oregon that you're in. Obviously, you go over to Bend, you're going to get a lot more snow during the winter, but beautiful summers. Here in the Willamette Valley, though, like let's just say, really, I would say from Portland to Eugene and then, you know, all the surrounding areas, we're pretty moderate.
Yeah.
We see summer is generally in the 80s. Spring is very rainy. Winter, we get rain, winter and fall, but it's not like every single day. I mean, I know for me, there's more rain than I would like, but I do still go outside. I go on walks at the park year round. So there's definitely, whether it's a break during the day to where it's not like downpouring all day to where you can go on a walk, or it's not every single day. But we really don't see the extremes in this area of Oregon, at least.
Right.
Where when it snows, like maybe once every 5 years, there's going to be a snowstorm where there's like
be that storm where you kind of remember.
Yeah. And it doesn't last maybe a few days and then it all melts. But besides that, maybe once every year, every other year, we get a few days of like frost, but it's really not snow. Like it's very rare that it freezes up here. You know, our temperatures are pretty moderate. And then according to StagePassOregon.com, Northern California can be moderate and Southern California can be unbearably warm. Okay. I don't really know. I've spent a lot of time in Northern California and
I think it's unbearable.
I think it's unbearable. I literally just checked yesterday and it said it was 110 in a particular town we go to a lot in Northern California. And so maybe that's just like the Bay Area. I know it gets cooler over there, but I don't know. Anyway, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's moderate in the summer.
We're in the summer and we're dealing with like 95 plus degree weather for 3 or 4 days right now. And I'm just like, I don't want to be outside. My plants are dying. My trees, I got to get them growing. They're turning brown. I just don't know how you could sustain that, you know, more than 3 months out of the year. And that's what's really refreshing about Oregon is you get the 4 seasons out of the year. And it's like either transition time, it comes perfectly because of the time change and you're just excited to see a new scenery personally in Oregon, all of the natural and wildlife, especially.
Fall here
it all
is
just
so
evolves within the season. So whether it's wildlife or plant life, I mean, it really is something to see and observe over the year because things change. They get bigger, they disappear, then they come back out of the ground. And simply, if you're dealing with dry climates, hot climates, you're really stuck to a couple things visually. And
fall, okay, just painting a little picture, fall in Oregon, especially this area in Oregon, Salem area, Willamette Valley, it is like Portland as well. It is like a postcard. It is so beautiful, just big, lots of big, mature trees, so much green.
Well, the leaves, reds, oranges, browns,
the
green.
most colorful autumn leaves everywhere. It is just so beautiful.
Yellow.
Very different scenery. I also really do love, it's much different, very different vibe, very different scenery, but I also do love being able to just like walk down the road or drive down the road and everywhere you go, there's palm trees, which we don't get that here. Right. I think that to me is also like, it just makes you happy. You know, you look at them and it's just, you smile because it's just like sunshine and happy. I don't know. To me, I really enjoy that too, but it is like very different,
completely different
pictures of what you're going to see, very different visually. Landscapes. But for fall, I think that the fall here, the scenery is very fitting because it's very cozy. Makes you just want to put on a sweater and go read a book with your coffee.
Right? No, it's definitely, I mean, when we were talking about the holiday season.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
I just don't know how really you could beat it, you know, because you're dealing with snow, rain, I mean, sun at times, fog. There's a lot.
Okay, so moving on to natural features. Oregon and California both have a variety of beautiful landscapes, like we just said. A big difference, though, is between the two states is the difference you'll have to travel between them all, like to see all of them. Okay. So because of the shape of Oregon, you really can see everywhere and like go everywhere in the state. It's pretty easy, not like in one day necessarily, but you can very easily just drive from one end to the other where it's not going to be this like take forever, versus California being a super, super long state. You may have to drive for hours or fly from one end of the state to the other to see what you'd like. So that is true. The shape of Oregon is really to where, in Salem, we're kind of very centrally located to where we can very easily be at the beach or the mountains or, depending on what direction we go, the city.
Well, we can get to Canada.
To Canada, 6 hours.
I mean, 6.5 hours.
Closer than California, almost. Just probably about the same.
That to me is
as the
wild.
border. But
that to me is like, wow. And I drive through California, it's like 16 hours and I'm still not even across the state.
You're still not across the state. That's true.
It's just, it is a different landscape in map, I guess.
Okay, so next we're going to compare the beaches. I've heard actually from relocation clients that Oregon has some of the most beautiful beaches they've ever seen. Oh yeah, I hear that. I've heard that actually quite a bit.
Don't get me going on our beaches.
I think I'm going to just go out and say I think Oregon beaches is a con.
I think they're a con too.
Because what is the point of a beach if you can just look at? Last time we went to the beach,
I can't get in this ocean.
Right. Last time we went to the beach, it was May, I think. Was it May? It was May, and it was. Our beach in May, there are some nice days in May there, but when we were there, it was just really cold and windy. And I mean, the sand, it's really beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Like it is very, very, very beautiful. Definitely worth seeing. Lots of cute little beach towns. Just not really for me.
But
for me, it's a con.
longevity-wise, I can't stay. That's what bothers me.
You can only do so much there.
I have to go to the adventure store and buy a coat.
Yeah,
boots.
you do have to buy a coat.
I got to buy heated socks.
Yeah. Our daughter was like covered in mud.
And have gloves on.
It was sand, but it looked like mud because the sand was, when the sand's like wet, it gets like sticky. Like she just wanted to play in the sand so bad, but it just wasn't the kind of sand she was thinking it was going to be.
Now, don't get me wrong though. Here in Oregon, we do have a really cool beach. I think it has like a sand hill. It's Pacific City, I believe. Yeah, it's Pacific City. And, I've never been on a beach quite like this one, and it's got that beach town vibe. Most of these beaches have the beach town, just straight through along the highway kind of, but they have their shops and the bay and ice cream shops, that type of thing. But Pacific City is definitely something to check out, though. If you're here in Oregon and you got a spare hour and a half, make the drive from Salem, Portland, really wherever you're at. You can head west and get there. But it's something different. They have sea urchin like areas. You can climb a sand hill, like I said, and you will see some surfing out there. I don't think the climate with the water or the weather is any different than along other Oregon coastal towns. I think it's all pretty consistent when it comes to the weather.
Yeah. So I would say the biggest difference is Oregon beach towns. A lot of people really, really love them. They do. Really cute. Like I said, I've heard comments from relocation clients that they're the most beautiful beaches they've ever seen. I think of Oregon beaches just because there's just not a lot to do. The weather is colder at the beach, and there's just really, my favorite beach town is Seaside because there is more, at least during the summer, there's more to do. There's more going on. But even that, it's really a small town. Like there is not a ton. You're going to get bored after, a day or two. You're like, okay, what else?
Totally.
So I would say the biggest differences in like the beaches, Oregon versus California, is Oregon beaches are more for like, if you want the beautiful outdoorsy scenery, you want to go on a hike, like there's lots of beautiful hikes around there, that type of thing. More like sleepy towns, very small towns, not much going on at all. And then obviously California beaches, you're going to have,
it's poppin',
it's
dude.
so much fun. Like I would actually be somewhere that you would want to live, or I would want to live. Some people want to live at the Oregon beach, but I would love to live at like a California beach.
See, and what's so funny is like we get the opposite. People from out of state, they're like,
They
"Oh my
move here.
gosh, I love the beach." Well, we go to California. Oh my gosh, we would live here. We love the beach. So it's one of those things. If you're not from here, that area, then you'll probably have a completely different opinion on our coastal towns.
Yeah, like, and I said, don't get me wrong. It's very, very beautiful. And there's lots of great seafood. But that's really the biggest reason I go.
Scallops is Mariah's favorite.
To the Oregon beach. Okay. Anyway, I feel like we've talked about that long enough.
I know.
Okay. Population density.
This is big.
So this is going to be another thing that I think whether it's a pro or a con to you, it's going to be so personal. To me, it's a con of Oregon because I like to be where people are at and there's things going on, and just like the more happening, the better. But I know a lot of people want to leave California because of that. Oregon does have a few major cities, but you are going to find a lot of rural space and open towns. California has one of the country's highest populations, so there's going to be more people. Obviously, though, when you are in an area where there's more people, more things to do, more businesses, just more happening, more going on, it's also inevitably going to come with more traffic and generally higher prices, but more traffic. And so that's the thing, like it would be so fun to live somewhere like that, but the amount of time you would waste of your life in traffic, it makes it a little difficult. But
what's the number one rule in real estate, Mariah? The old school term.
Location.
Location. So if you are in a dense population community, make sure your location's good. So you can walk to the market, walk to the store, go to the gas station, not spend an hour, even 30 minutes getting where you need to be if you have to be out of your home for work. I mean, all of these things add up over time. And so when you've lived some life and experienced a home or a home purchase, you understand where the location is going to work best for you, your family, and ultimately that's just going to make your life easier, and you're going to be so much more comfortable and confident. You're going to be like, man, thanks, Spence, for telling me location.
It's true. You can change a lot of things about the home, but you cannot change the location.
Can't do it.
So that's why it's important to know which state is right for you. So if you are thinking about relocating to Oregon, head over to our channel. We have a handful of playlists where we talk all about living in, relocating to, and real estate in Oregon, everything you're going to want to know. And we'll see you next week.